Welcome back. So let me put my sunglasses on. For those that are watching, I am outside in the elements. Or I guess for those who are listening, because the people that are watching can clearly see me. You know, I was watching and editing the last episode, and I be talking so fast that I don't even realize how I be slipping over my words sometimes. And then I had that experience today because I was trying to record a reel for Chicago, which the time that this releases, I will be at Exotica Chicago. So I was recording a reel for Instagram to promote Chicago, and I had to keep starting over because I was just talking so fucking fast. But I just get so excited and so pumped. So anyway, let me finish the intro. Well, welcome back to another episode of Two Scrippers, One Pole. That is two SKRIPPAS, one POLE. Anyway, so, oh shoot, I forgot to bring my iPad because I wanted to do the correction sound effects. If you're at A1 Day 1, you remember when I had the little the sound effects on my iPad. But I wanted to make a quick correction to one of the things I said. I was talking about, damn, it's bright out here. I can't even see my laptop. Oh, well, if I turn the brightness up, I can. But I was talking about some of the different creators that I watch and listen to, and I had said Karina Alexandra, but it's actually Karina Alexandria. But I did tag her in last week's episode so that you can see what I was talking about. So anyway, or I guess 2 weeks ago. So anyway, as always, per usual, there's so much I could talk about. I have my handy dandy notes. Let's start with some fun stuff. So y'all know this nose is making coin, okay? The verdict is in and my nose is popping. What am I looking for? This is why you only do one thing at a time. My notebook found it. Okay. So this nose is doing numbers, and I have 3 fans. One of them I had to block because he was just being egregious. But 2 fans who are very, very excited about my nose. And I don't remember if I had mentioned the first one. So like, I had posted a sneeze clip a year ago and it took off, and this one guy, he had like messaged me and he's like, oh my god, at 41 seconds you blew your nose and it sounded like a trumpet. That's called a honk. I love female honks. You're so beautiful. I want to be your biggest fan. I want to see you honk all day. And I'm just like, oh, like, you know, I'm glad you liked it. You know, I'll keep that in mind. So then that same day, 8 hours later, he's like, how's the honking going? And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm not just sitting in the house trying to figure out how to blow my nose to get you hard. Like, what are we really talking about here? So he kind of calmed down, but every time that I post a video, it's either in him, and it's the thing, one point at a time. So he's like very particular about honking because that is the fetish for him. And so it's very interesting that like you have a niche and then you get really, really specific within that. So like some people, you have like nose fetish. Some people want to see you sneezing. Some people want to see you picking your nose. Some people want to see you putting objects in your nose. Some people want to see you like wiggle your nose or like just like, you know, move it around so it looks like a pig and just all this other crazy things. And people like fetishes are specific about what they like. And that's also really fun because in a way, because then you have some people who are just like assholes, like, no, it has to be done this way. But then you have other people that like kind of like play into the fantasy with you and you get all these ideas, right? So anyway, back to honker. So it's like every time I post a video, sometimes it could be annoying because he'll like comment or message me, are there any honks in here? Like, because for him, the honking is that's what sells the video. So I've started, like, you know, when I'm tagging videos, I'll start putting like honk or honks or whatever. But then this motherfucker go mess me, how many honks are in the video? Bitch, if you don't just buy the fucking clip. So I just ignore him and he buys the clip anyway. But he'll always like leave me 5-star reviews, and he's like, guys, this is the most beautiful honker I've ever seen. Buy her clips, 5-star, da da da. I love her videos. So love that. Then I had this one guy who, because again, like for me, it first really started out as like just the sneezing, but now I'm starting to kind of get a little bit more niche specific. So I had this one guy who followed me on Twitter, and he was talking about like, I would love to see you do like pig nose and stuff like that. Then I just started noticing, I started getting a lot of messages from people that were saying like, you have a beautiful nose, like your nose is big. And I'm kind of just like, bitch. But anyway, because my nose really isn't that big. It looks that big because I have so many piercings in it, but it's not. I tested it out, which is the whole reason why I'm going on this rant. I have a story. So yeah, he's just like, I want to see you pick your nose, and I want to see boogers and blah, blah, blah. And then I had somebody who DM'd me and asked me if I could, is this recording? Okay. If I could get a custom of somebody, I don't know if I told this story already, but if you're new here, you haven't heard this story. And if you've been here and I did tell this story, well, you get what the fuck I give you, and I'm telling you the story again. Anyway, so he was like, you know, I would love to see you engage in nose play with somebody else. And I'm like, okay, that might be able to be done. Give me more. So he's like, you know, I would love to see somebody like sucking on your nose. And I was like, okay, like I have some friends that, you know, if I pay them, they might be willing to do it. So I'm like, okay, tell me more. This is where he goes overboard. He's like, I want to see them passionately sucking and kissing on your nose, and then in HD, they like basically suck the snot out of your nose. Excuse me, is everything okay at home? Like, what is going on? So I was just like, yeah, bruh, that's a hard limit. Like, once you started talking about HD sucking boogers out the nose, absolutely not. So then back to why I told that story. This other guy, the original guy that was like mentioning me on Twitter and stuff, I realized he was following me on mini vids because he had the same username. So I had posted, like, I have a series of videos called Royal Achoo, which is really focused on like sneezing and nose blowing. So then once I started getting all these like, oh, pig nose, nose play, all this stuff, like your nose is so beautiful, I want to see you do more stuff with your nose, I started this other series called Big Snotty Nose. So I'm doing more of like putting my nostrils in the camera and like flaring my nostrils and like still that sneezing element, but really more so focusing on like having larger nostrils and like being really close up to that and like the pig nose thing. So he comments on Twitter, and I can't find it, but he comments on Twitter is basically like, oh, your big snotty nose made me come so hard, right? So I ignored it because what the fuck? And this is when I first peeped, like, okay, this is like, because for some people it's just the entertainment aspect, some people it is like sexual, and some people it depending on the fetish, it's person by person. Like, everybody has these different reasons. So even with like foot fetish, like I like to ask people like, what got you into this? At what point did you know this was your thing? And even to kind of go off topic, like foot fetish, for some people it's like some people like feet, but they don't need that to be sexually aroused. Whereas some people are like, no, if you don't have cute feet, or you don't have feet that I find attractive or interesting or whatever, I can't fuck with you. Like, feet is a deal breaker for me. And so I guess some people are like, if you have an ugly nose, I can't fuck with you. So anyway, back to this big nose bitch. So he then, after I ignore him on Twitter, he then goes under my fucking video and he comments, your big potent cock nose, which already, motherfucker. Anyway, your big words. Your big, potent cock nose had me standing on my toes and screaming and shooting ropes of yellow bull cum out of my 8-inch uncut smegma cock. Wow, you drive me crazy. Y'all, I gotta take the glasses off for this one. That is a comment he left under my video. Like, what? And at that point, I was like, this is so fucking disgusting. That's gross. First of all, I have so many questions. Because if you're shooting yellow cum out of your dick, you need to see a doctor. Like, please, don't comment under my video telling me about your problems. Please go see somebody who is licensed, who has had the training to help you with that. Because I'm pretty sure that is a STD, babes. That is, and you probably got that STD from sticking your fucking, no. I'm gonna stop my thought right there. Anyway, sunglasses. But yeah, so that was a comment he left, and I was like, oh, absolutely not. So I had like responded to him at first, and I was like, that is just disgusting. I didn't need to know that. Why would you comment that? Blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, you know what? No, because clearly he has no home training. He has no essence of decency. So I just ended up blocking him on Twitter and Minivids, because why the fuck would you tell me that? That is not anything I want to know. That is actually so disgusting. I don't. Whereas the other hand, so I have this other fan, and I mentioned him last episode. I'm pretty sure I was talking about him. But he's become one of my favorite. And it's so funny, right? Because I just be assuming that everybody is an old creepy white man in the basement hiding their fetishes and kinks from their partner. But I was so shocked, because this particular one, we've been chatting for a while now. Because, he was the one that I was like, the giant nose picker. He wanted that custom, right? So he's my favorite because he's respectful, he pays, and we be chit-chatting it up. So he was like, and even for him, like, it's very sexual. He's told me about all types of crazy things he would love to do to my nose, but it is in a way that is not like I need to go run for the hills. Although I did tell him I would run for the hills in a certain case because of the conversation that we had today. But yeah, I be assuming that everybody's just like this old creepy white man, and I found out that he's only like in his early 30s. Like, he's 2 years so older than me, and he's half black and Native American. And I said, whoa, talk about judging and stereotypes. Because I was even talking to one of my other subs when I was saying, because I have a sub, sometimes they be cooking me. Because I was doing a live stream, and I do the live streams that are foot fetish focused. And so he comes in, and he was like, I said something about I need to oil my soles. And he was like, yeah, I was about to say they kind of ashy. Maybe I need to lick them. Bitch, fuck you. But I was talking to him, and I forgot exactly how it came up, but I was saying how, my nose is a hot commodity. And of course, even me and him, he's black, and he was like, yeah, no, that sounds like some white people shit. But now I have confirmed that niggas like noses too. So my nose guy, he had I was telling him how I was going to be releasing multiple like nose focused clips that week, just to give him a heads up. And he was like, oh yeah, that sounds wonderful, da da da. So he bought the first one because I release clips Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So I think I released the first one either Tuesday or Thursday, but I know that the last one was coming on Saturday. So he had messaged me after it released, and he's like, hey, ooh, big burp. I don't know what that was. I forgot how to speak for a second. That he overspent, and that he would be purchasing it like later in the week. And I was like, oh, you spent too much money. You spent too much money buying boogers all weekend or something like that, right? So this is where it started to get fun, because I was like, yo, you have too much time on your hands. So he goes, no, you see, what happened was some weirdo with an erotic nose fetish stole my phone and used it to buy videos of beautiful black women with wide, cavernous nostrils. Nostrils so wide you can fit your entire tongue in them. Nostrils being stretched to their limits as the tongue penetrates deeper and deeper. Her moaning, loving every bit of it. Nostrils submerged in saliva, tongue still bound to the nostril via a string of spit connecting them. You lift up on the tip of the nose to view the aftermath. The sight of that wide nose, all distorted, wrinkled and upturned, fills you with a burning lust that you begin devouring it. Wide nose is definitely a mouthful. Then goes, but yeah, as I was saying, I'm innocent. I said, oh my God. And this is when I realized for him particularly that this is more of a sexual thing. So sometimes I was like, I was really caught up on like, this nigga said my nose is cavernous. Like, what? I didn't even know that word existed. There's a spider on my phone. He said I have cavernous nostrils, right? And it doesn't stop there, because I was just like, when I first got that, I said, yo. And again, remember at this point, I just found out today that when I'm recording this that he was black. But when he said this, in my head, I'm thinking this is a white man saying this to me. So I'm like, you basically just called me a monkey for real. So I'm just like, should I be offended? Like, I don't really know how to feel about this. And I wasn't offended. But sometimes, like, so I like to entertain the shit. So then I forget, I didn't take a screenshot of what I had said back, but I had played into it. And I had said something along the lines of like, you know, well, at least... I was like, why would they do that with all your hard-earned dollars? But at the very least, I can say I'm happy that they spent it on black women. And then, shoot. And I was like, next time you need to make sure that they're spending it on this wide, cavernous nose or something like that. So then he responds and he goes, yes, of course. Also, yes, while I love all women, but the wide noses on the black queens are the tastiest of them all. By the way, funny you should mention that. They bought your latest nose video. This is the one that he was saying he was going to buy. It was called Digging for Gold. And this one was like, there was no sneezing. It was literally just like me picking my nose. But he was like, by the way, funny you should mention that. They brought your latest nose video. They said if someone licked across your nose, it would take 2 business days to reach the other nostril as wide as it is. I was like, yo, this man just doubled down. So that was fun. Then I forget exactly how I had responded to that, but then the conversation today, oh, I did take a screenshot of what that said. So then today, we were talking about, because I had asked them, like, how did you even, like, at what point, this is ridiculous at this point, because you are just so descriptive. Like, at what point did you realize that, like, this was a thing for you? And so he said somewhere in, like, 5th or 6th grade, he just noticed that, like, whenever he would see girls playing with their noses, I've really been talking about this for damn near 20 minutes. That's crazy. But whenever he saw like women playing with their noses, like he would get aroused and he could never really explain it. And then he was like, in 6th grade, there was a girl and he said, I quote, she had a snout on her, who he had really liked. And yeah, so he had said something about like being the only person with a nose fetish. And I was like, no, I was surprised too, but like, let me get this spider. Sorry. Oh. Okay, I think. Sorry. So he said that, I lost my train of thought. So he has said that Oh, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about foot fetish. So he was saying that he would have thought that foot fetish was the most common, and I was like, well, I mean, theoretically it is, but like feet doesn't really, like, people, let me tell you something, the top 3 compliments I get on my feet are how pretty they are and how soft they are, and just like how small they are. So those are the 3 compliments that I get on my feet. And that's a lot of in person, like a lot of people in person. So maybe I just haven't figured out the right angles to record my feet from or whatever. But for me, foot content really doesn't do that great. Like, I like to explore all types of stuff. So I've found that just the random stuff that I do is what sells. And then the nose people found me because I never really thought that I would be making nose content. But now, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's gross. It is gross, but it is fun. Like, I recorded a video yesterday and I was just like really mesmerized by like the way, because I did it outside too. I try to do more stuff outside now that the spring is among us. But like, I had sneezed and it was uncontrollable, so like this big snot had got on my hand and it was like stuck on my hand and stuck on the tissue, but it created this string, and then the way the light hit it, it was like all these bubbles in the snot, and I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. Like, it's gross, don't get me wrong, but like, I kind of see the appeal. So it's like one of those things of like, I'm just fascinated, and the fact that they're fascinated makes me more interested in it. So anyway, yeah, I was telling him like, no, the nose boys love me, although I will say you are one of my biggest fans. And he was like, really? That's actually good. I thought feet would have been more popular, as that's the only fetish I ever hear about. And oh yes, I adore that nose of yours. Nostrils so big and round, I'm sure you could fit a quarter in each of them. I'm like, this nigga just called me a slot machine. So I'm like, yo, like, where do you come up with this? So then, did I not screenshot the next part? I don't think no, I didn't screenshot the next part. Damn it. Or did I? Nope. I have all these damn screenshots. I can't see nothing. Okay, no, I didn't take a screenshot of it. But oh, you know what? Yes, I did. And I had put it on my computer. Where is it? Okay, maybe I didn't. I lied. I took a screenshot of something else. Okay, but anyway, so I had like asked him where he came up with that, and he was talking about how his imagination was just really big, and then he mentioned that he was saying that like the only way he would be interested in like a foot fetish thing would be is if I had somebody stick their big toe in my nose. And I was like, well, now that I think about it, like, I'm pretty sure that I could stick my big toe in my nose. And like, now I might just have to try it because you just gave me another idea for content. So like, yes. And this is what I love talking about fans. Like, this is what I love about talking to fans, because and this was something else in the last video where I was talking about like finding joy in his work. I find joy in the creativity because, again, wouldn't have thought that like nose was a thing, would have never thought to stick my big toe in my nose, would have never thought to like just do this stuff. And now that I'm talking, like, even with the mouth soaping guys, like, I think I talked about how I had Naked Trumpeter fucking chomping fucking soap. Like, I've never would have thought of content like that, right? So it's fun to just be creative and see like what can I bring to life. So yeah, anyway, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I could stick my big toe in my nose. And he was like, well, I'm sure you could, I don't doubt that, but the thing is like, if you do it with somebody else, then I could imagine it's me sticking my big toe in your nose. And I was like, I mean, that's fair, but you're just gonna have to use your imagination. And so so then he was like, well, if I was your neighbor, I would like be more than happy to do it. And I said, if you were my neighbor and you offered to stick your big toe in my nose, I would run and scream in the other direction, and I would move out in the middle of the night. And he was like, okay, you're right, maybe I won't do that. I'm just like, yeah, you fucking weirdo. But then that's when we started talking about just like ages and stuff, and I was like, wow, he's not an old white man. Crazy. So I wanted to share that. Next topic, I have a couple things. That was like a fun thing. So I wanted to follow up on a crack, okay? Because last episode, I had made a crack joke, and if you're new here, I haven't really made them in a while, but I make a lot of crack jokes, right? And that's because like my parents used to do crack. And I think it's a beautiful thing because now, not that they did crack, that's crazy. But my mom, at the time that this recording is released, she will have celebrated 25 years clean. And that is just so freaking beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I just always love to highlight that because addiction is, it can be a scary thing. It can be a very, life altering, like it has the potential to ruin a lot of lives, and it has ruined a lot of lives, right? No matter what the addiction is, like it can be something as cigarettes, it could be like cigarettes and nicotine, it could be crack, it could be heroin, it could be cocaine, it could be so many different things, even gambling. Like addiction is something that's so serious, and the more I learn, and also, if you're new here, something else that I'm very, very passionate about is HIV and AIDS advocacy. And so that is something that is a big part of my life as well. And so to hear my mom and her story of how she's overcome so much, and it's like, because when all of these things were really happening, I was just a wee little baby. I didn't know what the hell was going on. So to see just how my mom has made such a change in her life and how that has also come through with me and my siblings, is just like, I'm always so proud of her. So I wanted to shout that out, right? Because I be making the crack baby jokes, but it really is like, I'm just so proud of her. So happy 25 years, and really taking things one day at a time. There was like, when I was trying to come up with the notes and what I wanted to talk about this episode, that was something that had like played in my mind a lot. And it was like this idea of one step at a time, one day at a time, and how that can be applied to so many things. I think even now, here we are 3 years later with this podcast, because at the time, I think this is going to be released today. At the time of this recording, it's April 6th. So my mom will be 25 years clean on the 8th. And then the 10th through the 12th, I will be at Exotica. So if you're watching this as it releases or listening to it as it releases, I'm either headed to Chicago or there. And Two Scrippers, One Pole will be 3 years on April 13th. That was when technically, that was when like the first official episode had released. 1, 2, 3 fingers in my butt. And then we had like a mini-sode that had dropped before that. And then also, I don't remember an exact date of when I became a dom. I just know it was in April. So like, I want to say it was somewhere, it was either like April 15th or 17th, one of those two. But I just think about all the seeds that were planted, like the idea of having a podcast. And even though I haven't been like every week, because I've had so many different models of how I wanted to do this podcast, but at the end of the day, I just have fun getting in front of the camera and chit-chatting, because literally my life is so crazy. And I really hope the wind isn't that loud, because I changed, well, it should be fine because this little thing is on there, but I changed the setting because when I be editing, y'all know if you've been here since day one, I've been fussing with mics ever since. And like, when I change it so that it's noise canceling, I feel like my laugh is muffled, and I don't like that. But that's neither here nor there. Let me take a sip of water. So yeah, even just like the idea of having a podcast and seeing how that's grown, the idea of getting into domination and how these little things, it's like we don't take enough time to really appreciate how far we've come in certain things. And I think in the grander scheme of things, like, there's still some goals that I have in mind that I haven't yet accomplished being 3 years in, but that's not to say that I'm not accomplished. That's not to say that I haven't had success. I remember I was talking to one of my friends who is a musician, and we were talking about success, and she asked me, like, well, what does success look like in your industry? And I had to stop, because I was like, what does it look like? But really, success is such a personal thing. What you have to come up with your own markers to deem your success. But we compare ourselves too much to maybe people that we look up to, or societal expectations of what that success looks like. So we look for all this external validation. This wasn't even in my notes, but we look for all this external validation to deem ourselves worthy or deem ourselves successful. And yeah, when you're living in the moment and you're taking it one day at a time, you have the freedom to explore and build your own success. Because I'm going back to the nose thing, like, if I was so gung-ho and like, no, foot fetish and ignore, foot fetish and ignore, foot fetish and ignore, and didn't take the time to just be like, okay, what do I feel like doing right now? What would be fun to record? That's like, whenever I have a content day, there are some things, like, obviously, because certain things do well for me, I'm going to make sure, like, okay, let me add this, like, let me record this to add this to the series, or do this or do that. But sometimes it genuinely is like, I just have some props. Let me see when I turn the camera on, let's just see what happens. And I find that those typically are the ones that do the best when I'm really just like, what the fuck? Because I'm present in that moment and just like, let's have fun and explore. So yeah, and then there was, what else did I want to talk about? So I was going on, oh yes, so I also talked about in the last episode where I was Jamie C, how she had this challenge that had to do with your wealth container and money energetics. And when I was going back and listening to the last episode, I realized the story that I told about, like, my first night in a strip club, I didn't even realize until after I had said it out loud and listened to myself saying it, how that example in itself was an example. That's why I really paused, because I was trying to find a different word for example, but that was the perfect example of how I was describing that relationship with money, of like, as soon as it comes in, it needs to go out. So I had this like huge like rush of, oh my God, I'm meant to be a stripper, and I just made however much money in this night, and now I need to go and ball out and get shoes and outfits and that. When really, like, the only thing that was probably quote unquote necessary in that moment was shoes. Because I could have borrowed an outfit, I could have, like, you know, did a little bit more. I didn't need to have any like I guess research. I could have did a little bit more research on, like, you know, what to wear, but I didn't need to go ball out and find like however many outfits I bought for whatever. Because literally then the next night that we went in there, that weekend, it was like, it wasn't dead, but that's also the night that I found out that there's a difference between like club shaking your ass versus stripper shaking your ass. Because y'all, we got called like on the weekends, because that was the other thing, my first night in a strip club was like a random Tuesday or Wednesday. So then we went back that weekend, and Saturday night is very different from being in the strip club at the week. So it was popping. So I'm thinking we about to make money, and it wasn't. And then everybody had to get on the stage during the weekend. And they called us up, and I got to twerking, and it was crickets, and I did not make any money. I think I probably got like a pity dollar. Like, honestly, it was embarrassing. But that's when I realized there was a difference. But the whole point is that, like, I realized, telling that story, I realized how that was an indicator of my relationship with money. So some things that I wanted to talk about in regards to Jamie C's challenge. So it was like the first day she talked about uncertainty, and she said building a business, and this wasn't in that the first day, but she was talking about how like building a business is personal development on crack. And it really is, like, to build your own business, whether that, like, no matter what industry that's in, whether you're making products, whether you're providing services, whatever that is, you have to unlearn and relearn so many things. And you really have to step out on faith, and like, you have to be your center, because at the end of the day, like, you have to believe in you no matter what anybody tells you. And that's not to say, like, you have to also have discernment of, like, when something isn't working, being able to pivot. But the whole process of just, like, learning to trust yourself is, you are being personally developed. But anyway, the first day was all talking about, like, this sitting with uncertainty. And, like, a lot of times in business, if things aren't really working out, then people automatically assume that it's the strategy that's not working. So we need to change the strategy. So it's like, we'll create an offer, and then if it doesn't have immediate sales, then we have to pivot, and we have to change things. And so I really like this analogy that she had. It was that entrepreneurship is farming, not a vending machine. So when a farmer plants a seed, they don't dig it up the next day to check and see if it's growing. They just trust that it's built. There's trust that is built in knowing what needs to occur for the seeds to sprout. So imagine a farmer, like, planting a seed, and then the next day they go and they're like, oh, it's not growing, let me change the crops. Like, no, from day one, depending on whatever the seed is that you planted, it's like from day one to maybe day 3 or day 4 or a week. Then you go to like 4 weeks, 6 weeks versus 10 weeks, you're going to have a completely different plant. And so that's what happens, like, bringing it back to entrepreneurship, is like, as entrepreneurs, we start panicking, like, oh my God, I created this offer, I put so much work into it, blah, 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 blah. And then we don't get an immediate sale because we thought that, like, oh my God, this is going to be the thing that changes our life, right? But sitting with uncertainty is knowing that, like, trusting that you did the right work, and that things are going on behind the scenes that you don't necessarily need to be on top of, right? But the way that our brains and our bodies are built, they're built for certainty. They're built for survival and safety. Like, that is our body's job, is to keep us safe. Like, our body is a survival mechanism. And our brain is like, it's logical. It needs to have certainty, because it's just like, that provides our body with safety. So the big takeaway of that is just, like, really noticing, like, how do you feel when you're uncertain, and how does that show up? And, like, noticing of, like, is your identity tied to your sales? Like, if one month you make this amount of money and you feel really good about it, and the next month you don't make that same amount of money, do you then all of a sudden feel like you're doing something wrong, or this isn't the path that you should be on, or whatever other story? And really, like I said, checking in with how you're feeling as you're sitting with that uncertainty. Understanding that there's lag time in business. Like, there's lag time in everything. Like, some things, yes, there might, you do something and then you get immediate results, but then it might slow down. Because I think even, like, I had some scripts that I made with some of the videos that I've done, I had like put it into a transcript and made scripts to sell on Etsy, and I had like did that, and it was doing pretty good for the first couple weeks, and I ain't made a sale since. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So I was getting ready to do all this extra, like, you know, and I think maybe it's because I initially put it at like a sale rate, and then the sale wasn't on. You know, people love a sale, so I don't know, but it was just like, what the fuck? So or even, what's another example? I think even just like, I have videos from 2013, child, I was still in high school, 2023, when I first started, because a hurdle for me when I first started was like, what is content? So I wasn't consistent. Now I have built, that's another thing, thinking that you have to have all the answers, you have to have all the structure, all the strategy right up front. Like, oh, I see how this person does it, Honestly, my system, for someone who's just started out, could be completely overwhelming. What do you mean you post videos 3 times a week? When do you have time to do this? And blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just so many parts of thinking we need to have everything done at once, when that's not even how nature works. Like, bringing yourself back to nature and also realizing that you are a part of nature. Somewhat sidebar. I was watching Murder at the End of the World. And it was like, sometimes I'll just be, because I really don't watch TV like that, but sometimes I feel like watching TV and I find a series I could binge watch. So I had put on Murder at the End of the World, and it was really interesting because, oh, it's a butterfly. They were talking about AI and how AI is like, the whole AI debate, not going to get into that, but one of the characters had said something, because it was like, basically this billionaire had brought a whole bunch of different people together for this retreat in Iceland, and it was like some people who were like for AI, and there were some people who were against AI, and he wanted to just have this kind of like powwow almost to kind of just like break that down and move forward and things like that. So one of the people who was like anti AI had said something, or I don't know if he was anti-AI, but he was like accepting of it, I forget, but he made a point that was like, you know, this wasn't verbatim, but essentially what he was saying is that as humans, we give ourselves too much credit. We act like we're the most superior and the only beings in the galaxy, really, on this planet. Like, the earth was here before us, and the earth will be here after us. Like, the earth is always regenerating. So yes, like the world that we live in, oh, the way the trees are blowing in the wind is so pretty. Y'all seen those videos of like the girls talking to trees? Sometimes I be trying to talk to the trees, like, bring me your branch, and they don't be listening. But anyway, that was really pretty. But yeah, it's like as humans, we really be acting like we the big boss, and it's like the earth is so much bigger than us. The earth has been here and will continue to be here, and yes, it might look different. So like, yes, I can understand how AI is changing the world of how we know it in ways, but we're not going to be here forever. At some point, humans are going to be extinct because we aren't rulers of the world. And it's like the earth is equipped to adapt to changes and to create new life for other beings. So that was like an interesting concept. And I forget exactly how I went down that rant, because as I look at my laptop, this doesn't really have anything to do with lag time in business. So I don't know, maybe when I come back to record another episode, I'll remember it. But yeah, so just understanding that okay, that was a point I was making. I don't remember exactly how it connected, but when I started in 2023, I wasn't very consistent with how I uploaded videos. So like, whenever I would get a burst of energy, I would just like record a whole bunch of content, and then I would post like 7 videos in one day, but then go ghost for like another month or two. So anyway, it's like I would see some sales here and there, but not as consistently as I see them now, because now I am consistent, right? But I have over 250 clips on my sites. And I would say out of 250 of them, maybe about 80 have actually sold. And they're like, they resell, right? So it's like, it's a digital product. I don't have to be in front of the screen. Like, I can make a sale right now. And some of those videos, like I had a video that I recorded for Halloween in 2023. It was a mouth fetish video where I had put lipstick on, and then I took one of those mouth spreader things, and then I was just like showing off my teeth in the camera. And then eventually, I think I took the mouth spreader off, and then I was like smearing the lipstick on my face. These spam people be texting me like nobody's business. But anyway, so yeah, now we're in 2026 and that video just sold, right? So going back to the lag time in business of like, it doesn't mean it's not good. Like, I can probably think too, when I look back then, like, I wasn't really taking SEO into consideration, so I really didn't understand how to write a clip description to maximize the search engine for me to get more sales on that clip, right? So eventually, when I find the time, I do want to go back to old clips and like redo the descriptions. And now that I have a better understanding of different fetishes and things, to try to make them more appealing and show up more, because I think I would have like one sentence that was just like, I had brain rot, I didn't know what to put. But yeah, the point is like, I could have, a lot of my videos weren't selling then, and I could have given up then because, my videos aren't selling. But there were also other factors at play, and here it is 3 years later, it's still sold. Like, it got a good review. So then I like this. She also talked about, that internal validation. Do you feel good about it? Then that's what matters. Because then that's what just kind of like radiates into the ethers. And so the goal is not to feel certain. The goal is to become someone who can move forward even when certainty is absent, because that's where every breakthrough lives. So that first day was all about uncertainty. So then the next day was talking more about it's really hard to see against, okay, I guess I'll put it behind me. Sitting with your beliefs. And is this the same one as before? I don't know. Okay, wait. Yeah. So yeah, the second day was talking about like why you might start destabilizing when success does arrive. And the analogy she used for that one was, you don't run a marathon every day. Imagine a runner who just finished their best race ever. You would a good coach say, great, let's run another marathon tomorrow to prove you can do it again? Of course not, because athletes always integrate performance before repeating it, and business works the same way. Big results require integration time. So piggybacking off the first day, it's like, we want this need for certainty. So if success does come and it's big, going back to the story that I was talking about, like the whole night flirt thing, is like, oh my God, it worked, I need to do it again, and finding ourselves like needing to replicate things and repeat it, because then that feels like it gives us this false sense of certainty, like, oh, this worked once, it's gonna work again. And sometimes it might, and other times most likely it won't. So then, what does this say? So when we then, like, if you have a baseline and then something happens that is like, yes, like, so the instance that you use here is like, if you're normally making like $10,000 months and then all of a sudden you make $50,000 months, your brain is not going to immediately say like, this is normal, even if that's what you want. Like, this is the goal you've been working towards. Like, and let's even bring it down, right? Like, maybe you're making less than $1,000 and all of a sudden you get your $1,000 sale or your $1,000 month or whatever it is. So you're like, oh my God. And you're like really pumped up about it. But this isn't a normal. Like, that night flirt call, like, yes, that is possible. Some people, that is possible for them. But to make $1,200 in one day, that is literally the most money I've ever made in one day. Like, in one sitting, doing almost nothing. Like, it was just mind blowing to me. And while it was a simple, quote unquote, process, because even that client, it was like, I had been talking to him for months, which is something else she like brings up later, but it's like I had been talking to him for months, so not even realizing that in itself is like that lag time. Because like my very first call with him, I only got $4, and that was my very first call on Night Flirt, and I was like, what the fuck? Even like, I thought I was going to be horrible at phone sex operation and whatever else, and then to have that. So when this thing that is like, yes, we might have wanted this $1,000 day, this $5,000 month, this $10,000 month, whatever it is that you desire. When it happens, it's not necessarily normal. So your body is going to go into a stress response because like, this is not every day for us. And so then usually what happens is like, so there's like a prediction error in the brain of like, this isn't what normally happens. So then your nervous system gets activated, and it's this urgency to like make sure you do something right with the money. Make sure that I spend the money right. Make sure that, you know, I need to buy, all of a sudden you need to go to the store and buy this, that, and the third, and or you need to pay this, or you need to do that. So it's your nervous system like getting activated. You're having this stress response. So then you start to react, and that is the overspending, or maybe, oh, this really worked, so I need to recreate this so then I can launch it again and make more money. Or doing something else. So it's like your nervous system is now reacting for you to do this behavior to give your brain some sense of certainty of like, let me repeat this. And so then it's like you either become, because you didn't allow yourself time to integrate that and really like kind of celebrate that, honestly, your nervous system becomes overwhelmed, which can lead to burnout, revenue swings, or just emotional crashes and inconsistent results. Whereas if you take the time to really, where is it? There's another one. Hold on. Y'all, I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place. When I was like editing last week's episode, I got really self-conscious, which happens. I've talked about this in past episodes. Sometimes I'll be recording and then like I'll get either in the moment I'll be recording and then I get self-conscious, or I'll be editing. Like last episode, I was trying to edit and I noticed how I say like, so, but yeah, anywho, anyway, as filler words, and because I talk so fast, I don't catch it until I'm editing it. And I just felt like really self-conscious, and I found myself, and it was interesting when I was looking at this, of like the ways that I had this, I don't know if I want to say insecurity, but I had this reaction of like visibility, being seen, of like, oh, look at the way she talks and blah blah blah. And I found myself being very self-conscious and wanting to like over edit every single piece. Let me cut that so out, let me cut this out. And it was like, girl, calm down, relax, it's really not that deep. So yeah, and that's an example of those behaviors of like, we need to over edit ourselves, like, or whatever else. So then the regulated success cycle that she mentioned was when this win comes in, really sitting with that and be present with your body. What are you feeling? Do you feel some sense of pressure? Do you feel some sense of anxiety? Do you feel some sense of sadness? And where in your body? I noticed that I hold a lot of tension in my shoulders. And especially since I've been doing conscious nervous system work, I realized how my shoulders are always just like pent up. And I'm like, girl, I'm like, girl, relax. Like, I'll be brushing my teeth, my shoulders are all the way up next to my ears. I be cutting some food, my shoulders are up next to my ears. I'm driving, my shoulders are up next to my ears. And so it's like, when I make the time to consciously breathe, and that's the easiest way. If you don't meditate, if you don't know what other modality you feel like you don't have time, whatever you feel like your personal case is, try to remember to take a deep breath. That's always going to reset you. So then I notice, like, when I take a deep breath, let's take a deep breath now. In through your nose, filling up your belly. Release with a sigh. Again. And I always realize in those moments like that how pent up my shoulders are. I'm like, girl, what is wrong with you? But yeah, so being present in the moment with your body of like, this thing that I've been wanting just came in. Where am I feeling it? And take the time to really absorb that and celebrate that. And then you start to see yourself. This like pause helps you see yourself as somebody who can hold this, and it's not like becoming an observer of your thoughts too. You are not your thoughts, but we're so conditioned to think that we are. The world that we live in. So it's like, when that success comes in and we're holding it, you know, in the back of your head, oh, I need to do this, or I need to do that, or this, blah, 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 whatever. And just kind of seeing like how those thoughts go through and how they may, damn it, I had other notes and I left those, but it was something that she had said was like, about the like, our body isn't built for success. Like I said earlier, it's built for survival and safety. And we didn't come out the womb as business owners or whatever it is you have goals for in life, of whatever you want to create. Like, we didn't necessarily come out the womb with those tools. So we have to learn in our bodies, which is our biggest organ, well, the skin, but body, you know, was built to keep us safe. So we have to really be present within our body and have that awareness of like, how is whatever I'm perceiving feeling in my body. And then the more that you kind of just like check in and you build that self-trust within yourself, then you can be on a path for sustainable growth. What else did she mention? So really learning how to detach success from pressure. This pressure to be good, to get things right, to repeat whatever it is. It says right here, the brain starts scanning for ways to protect you from the pressure it expects to follow. And this is why many entrepreneurs feel the urge to immediately work harder after a big win. It's not actually about the money. It's about the nervous system trying to stay ahead of the pressure it believes is coming. So when you get a bunch of money, now you might feel like you have this responsibility, whether that's a responsibility to spend it right, the responsibility to take care of others, the responsibility to double it, triple it, whatever, get better next time. Like, okay, I made this $1,000 today. That means now I have to start, like, I have to automatically increase my revenue and start making $2,000 and $3,000 and $50,000 and whatever else. So there's pressure to be consistent. But entrepreneurs who remain grounded during success have rewritten this association, and they're training their nervous systems to believe that a new equation that success equals support, and support equals expansion, and expansion equals more resources. Understanding revenue cycles, is that we're always expecting revenue to go up, when really sometimes it is more of like a up and down cycle. It might not always be like a drastic up and down, but they're just like with the seasons of the earth and the seasons of planting and the cycles. There's so many, the cycle of the moon, how you have the new moon and there's like quote unquote nothing there, and then it expands to a full moon to go back. Like everything is in cycles. Nature is cyclical. Nature teaches us harmony. We are part of nature. Just like we are born, we eventually die. Like everything is a cycle. So understanding that, and a lot of times, sometimes a big month is often followed by a quieter period, and that doesn't mean that we're failing. That just kind of means that this is a time that where we have to take more time to like integrate and really sit with that. Then she talks about that, and then just expanding your wealth container. So then she talked about, and I think I had mentioned this in the last one, was like receiving and what that feels like, what that looks like for some people. Some people genuinely are not able to sit with receiving. Like I was saying, like if somebody compliments you, if somebody compliments you, how do you respond to that? Do you just say thank you, or do you feel the need to explain like, oh, I got this from X, Y, and Z, and I paid this much money for it, and blah, blah, and not judging it, just kind of noticing it. Like, why did you feel you needed to say where you got it from? Why did you feel you needed to say that you paid so much for it? And I see a lot of times that people, oh, does he have binoculars? I really want a pair of binoculars so I could bird watch. I added it to my throne list. Check out my throne. I added the link in my bio. Buy me gifts. But what was I talking about? See, I get so distracted. Like that is somebody need to change their muffler. That's like the beautiful thing about being outside, but also the horrible thing, because my attention span is a squirrel. I was talking about receiving. So it's like, do you tell people when somebody says, oh, I like your dress, and you feel the need to respond like, oh, thanks so much, I got it from Ross for $7? Is part of you saying that because you don't want people to think you spend a lot of money to have nice things? Do you not want people to think that you have a lot of money, that you like, just kind of thinking? And that might not be the case. But it's something to consider and something to notice, right? Because a lot of us have been taught that money is evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like, you shouldn't spend a whole bunch of money on certain things, like whatever the case may be. So kind of just like sitting with that and looking at that. But the analogy she used for this one was, your nervous system is the container. Imagine pouring water into a cup. If the cup is small, the water spills over. The same thing happens with financial expansion. If your nervous system is only used to holding $5,000 months, and then suddenly you receive $20,000, the system may unconsciously discharge or remove the excess because your nervous system hasn't expanded the container yet. So this is like you hear a lot of times about people who win the lottery and blow all the money, like, or celebrities and athletes who, we think on the outside looking in, like, oh, their discography goes crazy, they in all these movies, they must have all this money. Then you find out that maybe they're not paying their team that much or whatever else, which could be other things. But also, like, even in that case, it's like, okay, well, they had to get to this, they have a team, they have to pay people. So yeah, they might be making $1 million, but they have people on their payroll. That $1 million is coming to them to be filtered out to other people. And also, just like, you see athletes who get signed like D1 colleges, and I don't know nothing about sports for real, so I don't know if sports people get paid. But even when they go to the NFL, you see all the time how they spending all this money on clubs and this, that, and the third, because they don't they're not used to all this money, especially if they're younger. Like, and they don't teach like and I don't even know what it looks like now, but I know when I was in school, financial literacy classes were electives. You did not have to take that. Like, we are not taught anything about money for real. We're taught the I can't even fucking say it anymore. Pythagorean theorem. We're taught chemistry. We're taught about the fucking world wars, and not even accurately. Like, we're not even fucking taught slavery is a fucking elective. Like, it's so grazed over. So it's like we are not taught how these systems and these things work. So then, especially if you come from a background where you ain't really had, like, you had to get it how you live it. Like, you was really just like, I'm here today, might not be here tomorrow, fuck it, we ball. Like, really coming from survival mode, and then all of a sudden you get this huge influx of money. Yeah, you're gonna blow it, because then you also kind of think, like, you also don't have any concept of how money works. You have no concept of, like, people actually don't have any concept of $1 million versus $1 billion versus $1 trillion, which is just ridiculous. But it's like, honestly, now that I get older, $1 million really isn't that much. It really is not. Do I have $1 million? Not yet. But I can see it. The more that I get into this, I'm like, I know I've spent over $1 million in my life, for sure. I've had over $1 million flow through me, and I'm sure many of us have, but we've never looked at it like that. And I think even like when I was younger, somebody gave me $10 for my birthday. Oh, I'm rich. Let's go to the corner store. Snacks for everybody, right? But now I'm like, $10 barely gets you two gallons of gas, and that's on a good day. Like, so it's just really like, you know, once you have a better understanding of money, how it works, it's interesting to see that. But to go back to my point, it's like, so our nervous system is more or less looking at this influx of money as like an attack. It's not our baseline. And so really kind of sitting with that. What else did I want to mention? Because I actually did not mean to be talking this long, but y'all know this camera come on, I get the yapping. So yeah, it's just, it's really an energetic game. And I'll talk about this, and I'll put this on the screen. This is my reminder to put this on the screen. So she had this diagram called the wealth house. And so for those of you who are listening, it's a triangular top with 4 pillars. So the triangular top says what you can receive: money, opportunity, support, ease, and overflow. And then you have 4 different pillars. You have identity, nervous system, self-trust, and money and relationships. And so those are the 4 pillars that create your wealth container. So what does this look like? Identity based, like, and when I did the because she had us do like a checklist. Let's take a breath break because the helicopter's going past. Okay, so you can still kind of hear it, but so she was talking about how if it was like a checklist of seeing how many of these things affect us, and that's where you can kind of figure out where your like wealth container is leaking. And I was like, it was a hard pill to swallow. I was like, basically almost all of my pillars were non-existent. I was like, well, dang. So with identity, this can look like, this is really about you tie your worth to how much money you have. And so you feel like when money comes in, it won't last. You need to prove that you can keep it. You feel like this level isn't who I am yet. Like, I'm not the person who who makes this consistently or who can hold this consistently. You downplay or disconnect from the amount. I know that personally, this is something like whenever I'm doing like manifestation or like witchy stuff, and I'm just like, okay, how much money do I want to call in? And sometimes I find myself second guessing the amount, like doubting, like, is that really possible? But then I have to remember, like, really anything is possible. And it's like, I've seen so many people who have had subs tribute $10,000 or more in one sitting. So like and it's not my job to figure out how, you know, if I want $10,000, I want $10,000. Like, it's not my job to figure out how that's going to come in. That's the universe's. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day, right? But it's, again, it's like in my head, I'm automatically, and if you are automatically jumping to how is this going to get done, notice that and take a step back, because it really is not about how. That's how we're automatically getting in our own way, because you can get a random check in the mail. You might not even get like you could get the full 10,000 in one sitting. You could get it separated. Like, you could have 10 $1,000 days. You could have somebody tip you. You could potentially find it laying around somewhere. Like, there's so many. You could get a random refund check. Like, there's so many different ways that whatever it is you want could come in. So anywho, so you might downplay or disconnect of like, oh, you know, maybe you don't really deserve it, maybe you don't really want it, maybe it's too much, or you get a lot of money and you just kind of like, oh, you know, you don't celebrate that. You feel like you need to do more work to earn it. So even like the night flirt thing, it's like I made $1,200 from answering the phone. It wasn't harder than that. I didn't have to clock in for 8+ hours, however many days a week. What? You're worried that people will see you differently if you have more. So to go back to the dress comment, if that is a thing for you, of like, why do you feel you need to explain that this dress was $7? Do you think people will look at you differently if you said, if you bought the dress for $500, you have $500 to pay for that dress, so wear that dress. Or you feel like you might outgrow the people in your life, which is a big thing, because this is something that I deal with here and there. But, you know, we are used to, everything's about familiarity, and we're used to the people around us. And usually, like, take a inventory of the people around you. That's a reflection of yourself too. Like, birds of a feather do flock together is what I was trying to say. And so it's like, you know, if you earn more but everybody else around you isn't earning the same amount or near it, or maybe they aren't even their own business owner. And this doesn't even have to do with like owning your own business. In ways it does, because obviously, like, there's so much expansion in that. But like, even if you're looking to get, you know, a higher paying 9 to 5, you might feel like you're not the type of person, you're not ready for that job, you're not the type of person who is qualified for this job, or, you know, other people have more qualifications for you to get this higher pay raise and things like that. So just kind of looking at, you know, if I do get this raise, if I do start making $10,000 in my business, then I won't be friends with people no more. And that might be the case. But honestly, like, something I've had to learn a lot is being more selfish. And something I've told myself since high school really was like, nobody's going to do the thing for you but you. So at the end of the day, it really is about you. Not that I'm doing anything to like harm anybody or put anybody else down, but at the end of the day, it's about me. So I got to do what I got to do so that I can also uplift other people. Moving on. So the nervous system, feeling an urgency to do something immediately, feeling overstimulated or on edge, feeling suddenly wanting to create more, fix, or move, feeling pressure instead of calm, or struggle to just sit and do nothing after receiving, which I've talked a lot about, that is definitely something that I've been taking more note on, of like this urgency of needing to get things done, feeling like the world is going to crumble, and like really feeling like things have to be done now. Now, while I have a better awareness of how this shows up in myself, I still have my days, and that's not to say like, because recently I just finished my menstrual cycle, and it was like I needed to get some work done before Chicago. So I was teetering this line of like, okay, I really just want to sit here and do nothing, but like work actually does need to be done. And so finding a balance in there, and also finding the intention of like, where is this need to do the work coming from? So kind of a different case, because sometimes I really do feel like, oh my God, I need to be doing something. But like I said, like I've created the systems over time, 3 years in. I didn't have these systems in place when I first started, but planting that seed 3 years ago, I have systems in place where people can find my website if they Google me, that they can fill out my booking form, they can send me tributes, they can buy things off my wish list, they can go to my site, they can subscribe, they can buy clips, they can tip me. Like, I have the systems in place that I don't have to be present every waking moment. It has to be doing, because the highest version of myself gets paid to exist, because I have built those systems to allow me to be free and do whatever I want to do any given day. Self-trusting, the next pillar. So are you worried that you might lose the money? You second guess your decisions after receiving, feeling like you need to be more careful now, not fully trusting yourself to maintain it, feeling responsibility more than safety, worrying you won't know how to handle it what comes with more, and feeling like you have to become someone else to be able to sustain it. And then your money relationship. Money feels like pressure or responsibility. You feel the need to use it correctly. You feel guilt spending on things that are just for you. You associate money with stress or work. You don't fully trust that more will come back. You worry that people will expect things from you if you have more. And you feel like having money means you'll have to give more away. Yeah. And the more that I become money conscious, it's interesting to see how many people have these negative relationships and these negative beliefs around money. And again, it's still like, I still unpack my own every day, and realizing how reality is a mirror, even going back to like, you know, relationships with other people, and seeing how some people react in spending, or how they talk about money. And sometimes I will say something to some people, but I've found that sometimes it's not even about saying something to them. It's noticing what that triggers in me, because going back to kind of like, oh, people might look at you differently. Like, I do find, oh, it's a bee. It landed on my shoulder, then like ricocheted off. But going back to like being scared that people will see you differently. So I don't try to have too many conversations around money, because I definitely don't want people to think like, oh, she's uppity, she thinks da da da, because I'm not making the amount of money that I know I'm going to make yet, right? So I know I'm a rich bitch, period. Okay. And there are like little actions that I've started to take to reinforce that, experience. And when I found a lot of times when I'm in a situation where I'm with other people who, oh, look at the doggy, with other people who still are very much blinded by their money blocks and other things, I recognize how some of that might still be showing up for me, or how that did. So kind of just noticing that for myself. So this work is really about learning how to sit inside having more and feeling safe with abundance. Was there something else that I wanted to talk about, or am I done with that? Really checking in with your body. Oh, that was the other thing. So the last thing I will mention in regard to this, she was talking about like, when you take a moment to really visualize what, you know, more clients, more money in your business, more visibility. Maybe you have a podcast or you're writing a book or whatever, like more people buying and reading your book, more people watching your podcast and listening to whatever you're creating, watching whatever you're creating, more people coming to you, seeking you for your services and things, like more visibility, whatever that like expansion looks like for you, for whatever your dream is. When you think about that, where do you start to feel pressure or tension in your body? Do you feel it in your throat? Do you feel it in your chest, your stomach, solar plexus area, your shoulders, your breath, your lower body? Like, where in your body do you feel some sort of pressure? And when you sit with it, does it intensify? Like when you really like, and I've started to do body talk a lot more, because I mentioned in a couple episodes ago how I'm really kind of breaking myself down into these parts of like, there's the child me, there's the everyday human me, and then there's the higher self me. And I'm constantly kind of having these conversations of like, okay, this is something that's triggering me. Who is it that's actually triggered? Why are we feeling this way? Like, what about this situation right now is causing anxiety or causing fear? And how can we sit with this? And how can we trust that it's going to work out, right? And noticing how I am being triggered and sitting with that and reminding myself that in this present moment, I understand that you're scared and you're nervous and you don't know how this is going to be done. But in this moment, you truly do have everything that you need. In this moment, we've done all that we can do. We just have to trust. And y'all know I love me some good yogi tea. And my tea quote it was trust creates peace. And that's one of my favorite things. It was like, you just have to trust. And that's so hard to do. And I say it now. I've been consciously doing this work for probably about a year now. So I'm at a better space, and I've had enough resources come across my perception that it's easier for me to say that and understand that and check in with myself of like, girl, you tripping. And the more you do, it's like life really is a game. It's like this game. Beyond Taylor said it in one of her videos, but she was talking about like, it's this game of remembering and forgetting. And as crazy as that sounds, like, it's like, you might really be tripping, like, oh my God. And you're like, wait, girl, relax. Like, it's fine. You're okay. Remember that time that this happened and you thought da-da-da? Like, so it really is about just sitting and being present and noticing and trusting that it will work out. I think even I was mentioning earlier about how earlier in the month of March, I had this whole thing. So I had a bank account with this one bank. And in February, they told me they were closing my savings account. So I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I had like 4 cents in that bank account, in that savings account anyway. So I was like, all right, whatever. So they were like, you can transfer it over and move on. I'm like, okay, cool. I called them. They were just like, we're closing it. We're not giving you more information. I'm like, all right, obviously this is out of my control, whatever. Transfer the 4 cents over to my checking account. Cool. So then beginning of March comes. I'm minding my business, I got some money and we taking care of business. And then my card keeps getting declined. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So then I check my account and it says like withdrawals are paused. Mind you, this is a weekend. So I'm like, all right, okay. So first thing, I called like Sunday and they're like, no, the department you need to speak to isn't open till tomorrow, Monday. So Monday, first thing in the morning, I call and I'm like, hey, can you give me more information? So then they tell me, yeah, we're closing your bank account. We told you that. And I was like, no. You said you were closing my savings account, not my checking account. Like, what does this mean? So I'm going in a spiral because, again, mind you, like, I'm in the car. All of my money is in my bank account. I have $0 in cash on me, which bring cash. Always have cash. But I'm like, I have $0 in cash. I'm in the car with Mistress Bad Bitch headed to Ohio with, what do you mean? What do you mean I have no money? Y'all didn't give me, in every document, they were like, we sent the notice. No, I got emails, I got letters in the mail. Every single document said my savings, not my checkings. So now you're telling me you're cutting off my access, because now you're not even giving me the option to transfer it to another account. So now I have to wait for a check in the mail. Okay. So this is literally like March 1st that this is happening. And I didn't get that check in the mail until, I don't even know when, but it was several weeks after. Luckily, I was going to the foot, like, you know, shout out to Mrs. Bad Bitch, because that really is my friend. Like, she was helping me. She was helping me out. She was like, it's fine. And then I was getting cash from like the foot night parties. And then the, what is it? So the check finally comes. I got a new bank account. We're fine. Because then also it was a holdup with like all of my payouts, because all of my sites, you know, they either do bi-weekly, the 1st and the 15th, or they do once a month at the 1st. So I'm like, I literally have access to no money right now. Like I'm calling everybody like, oh my God, please, please, please. Like trying to figure out, like, and I'm freaking out, right? So I'm just like, all my money is up in limbo. What am I doing? So I do... like back in 2024, I had opened up a separate savings account, which I highly do recommend, of having a savings that's not connected with a checkings account. So you just, because that also helps with just like, once it's out of your bank account, then you don't have your eyes on it. So anyway, luckily I had this separate checking account or savings account. So finally get the check in the mail. So I have this new bank account that does have a checking savings. I try to cash a check, but they're like, you can't cash a check for more than $500. Bro, what do you mean? But luckily I had that savings account, so I was able to put the checking, I was able to deposit the check into the savings account. But also, because this is a savings account, it's with a credit union, I had to wait longer. So basically, that money, I did not get my hands on that money until the end of March. It took a whole month for me to get that money, right? So at first, you know, when it first happened, I'm just like, God, why have you forsaken me? Blah, 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 blah. But as I've been preaching, everything is about perspective. So the other day, it hit me of like, okay, that has forced me to sit with money longer. It has forced me to move slower, because I could have, if I had access to that money, I could have thought of all the ways that I could have spent that on stuff that I maybe needed and stuff that I didn't need. But all of the stuff that I needed got taken care of. So I likely would have spent all of that money on shit that I didn't need. And so it's also helped me, you know, now I have more cash influx. And even with this new account that I have, it's like I can't even, like, it's like an online bank. So I have to go to a retailer to deposit cash to put it on. So it's like, if I'm not getting money deposited into my account, then I have cash. So it helps me, one, I have cash on me a little bit more often. So then I have a visual representation of like money, building that relationship with money. And this is what it looks like, right? Being able to physically hold dollars in my hand. And just moving slower of like the process. Like if I have a check, first of all, I'm just going to deposit into my checking account right now, or not my checking, my savings account, because it's a check. I don't need it right then and there. And just kind of letting that money sit with me longer. So of course, in the one hand, I could have just been like, what the fuck, blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, I'm choosing to look at the perspective, especially given like all this stuff that I'm learning about wealth containers and sitting with things and holding things. It's like, this is a chance for me to sit with money and hold on to it longer and feel more assured and comfortable in building that safety around those experiences. But yeah, so a couple of things that she mentioned is like, okay, so like you feel this pressure in your body and that'll turn into a behavior. Oh, so it was like you have an experience and then you tell yourself a story about that experience, which then leads to a behavior. So the experience was the bank closed down on me, and I could have told myself all these crazy things, all these different stories, which then would have influenced of like, oh, maybe I need to take out a payday loan, or I need to do this, or I need to ask somebody for money, or whatever else, and would have led to a behavior of me reacting to this experience. So if you feel certain, like, so she was saying if you feel pressure in your throat when you start thinking about this like higher version, this more successful version of yourself, your business, sometimes this turns into a behavior by holding back your messaging. So maybe you don't want to be visible anymore. You have a hard time of like coming up what to say for your reels or your content or your writing, whatever that is. So you're holding back your messaging, you're over editing what you're saying, you're not responding to opportunities, you're delaying visibility, and you're second guessing your own voice. So like even when I was saying, when I was editing the last episode, it was like I feel really good about the episode. I always feel really good. Like even right now, I'm like, girl, you've been talking for an hour and 30 minutes. Like, and I know that I probably awkwardly paused at certain points, or I said something in my head, it made sense, but then when I watch it back, it was like, girl, that made no sense at all. So I know that those things are there, but sometimes I might find, like in that instance, I found myself like second guessing or trying to over edit to do all this extra stuff. Even earlier when I was recording the reel for Exotica, it was like I just kept tripping, like, oh my God. And like I finally got to the point I was like, girl, just fucking do it. Like, just fucking do it. So yes, if you feel the pressure in your chest, these behaviors might be pulling back when things are starting to work, not following through, emotional overwhelm that leads to shutdown or disconnecting from clients or your audience. If you feel it in your stomach, and let me see what she also said, because it was like, so the throat is often with, about visibility and honest self-expression. The chest is usually, like the chest heart is vulnerability and emotional safety. Oh, let me read that. Okay, so let me go back. So with throat, visibility, honest self-expression, you might like, can I fully express my truth? What if I say the wrong thing? What will people think of me? If I'm fully visible, I could be judged or rejected. And so the behaviors that go with that are holding back your messaging, over editing what you're saying, not responding to opportunities, delaying visibility, second guessing your voice. With the chest, the chest heart area, vulnerability and emotional safety. So maybe a fear of disappointment, a fear of loss, a fear of loss of belonging. So again, those friend groups and people, like your identity. Fear of being hurt or let down, or this pressure to hold it all. And behaviors can look like pulling back when things start to work, not following through, emotional overwhelm leading to shutdown, and disconnecting from your client or audience. Your solar plexus, upper stomach area, is your personal power, identity, control, and uncertainty. So can I do this? Can I be the person to hold this? You don't know how this is going to play out. What if I can't control the outcome? Can I sustain this? So these behaviors begin to be overthinking every decision, wanting the perfect plan, gripping too tightly to outcomes, or going all in and then shutting down. Feeling in your shoulders, the responsibility and pressure. This is a lot to hold. What if I can't handle the responsibility? More money means more pressure. If I make more, then I'll have to do and be more. So this could be avoiding growth opportunities, undercharging, staying in smaller offers, or procrastinating on your expansion. And I know that that was a big thing for me. I think that the throat and the shoulders were definitely big ones for me. The breath, safety and capacity. This feels like too much. I can't relax here. I need to protect myself. And like I said earlier, always try your best to come back to the breath. The breath is always going to be like, that's the easiest way to center yourself and reset in the moment. So if you feel it, like the shortness of breath when you're thinking about your expansion, this could be the rush, the need to rush and do something, to overspend or overwork, launching something new immediately, or not letting things settle. So this is something else that I feel a lot is like, I find myself overworking sometimes. Like as I'm overworking, I realize like, oh, my breathing is really off. My breathing is weird. And then that's usually my sign of like, you're overworking, bitch, relax. Go sit in a corner somewhere and stop doing, like, you don't have to be productive every single moment of the day. the last one, lower ability, your stability and security. Is this stable? Can I trust that this will last? Do I feel supported? So this can turn into behaviors that, like, you're not trusting the consistent income, going back to familiar work, staying in backup plans, or hesitating to go fully all in. So I think even, you know, like, having been a public school teacher, making the decision to leave, I sat on that decision for months. Like, I was just like, I'm not happy here anymore. And I knew I wasn't going to teach forever. I didn't think that I was going to leave as soon as I did, but I just knew, I was like, I cannot sustain this anymore. And at the time, I had people in my life who were willing to support me. And I am grateful for that. But I really don't think that all of us really understood what the ramifications of that was. And so I can't say I would do it again. I would do it differently if I did it again, because I don't know what that would look like. But yeah, I think everybody, I thought I had more support. I think that some of them thought that they would be able to support me in more ways, and we were all kind of realized that that wasn't the case. But anyway, so when I did finally make that decision to leave, I felt immediate relief, right? And then it was like, once I got to the point where it was like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't working out how I thought it was going to work out, then it became from everybody else, like, go back to teaching. You still have your certification. You have that stable income. You have the job security. You know how to teach. You know how to do this, blah, 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 blah. So 7 months after leaving, mind you, I left in the middle of the school year. 7 months after leaving, I found myself reapplying for the same position at the same school that I left. And everybody's just like, oh yeah, you're going to be stable again. You're going to be this, and that. And I realized I was only doing that for other people, because immediately, as I was filling out my application, your girl was stressed out. I was like, what the fuck? This is my life again. And so I'm really trying to mentally prepare myself. And I was having this conversation like, oh, well, now that I know how stressful it's going to be, like, I can be more proactive in my self-care and whatever. Trying to tell myself. And then, and I think too, if it had been easier, because the thing that pissed me off too was, like, I wasn't even gone for a full year, and it's a motherfucking teacher shortage. What you mean I gotta completely start over my application and give references? Bitch, I'm coming back to the same classroom. Like, what are we talking about here? So I think that was another little, like, nudge from the universe to, like, bitch, they made it harder for me to reapply. And so I was just like, yeah, fuck this. Like, so I ended up, the day before we were supposed to go back for pre-service, I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. Something came up. I'm not going to be able to do this, because I realized that if I had went through with it, y'all, I really would have burnt bridges, because I would have quit even sooner. And I'm so glad that, and of course, everybody around me was disappointed, but I'm so glad I made that decision, because my one of my friends at the time, who was my coworker, she was like, oh, she was telling me about all the crazy shit that was happening in the school, and I said, yeah, I knew what I was doing, and I've been figuring it out since. And again, it's like, kind of thinking about the success conversations of, like, redefining success for myself and what that looks like. And while, like, I had one idea of what this journey would be, and it's been something completely different, but I feel so fulfilled, because I've met so many beautiful people, and I've had so many beautiful opportunities, that I do feel successful. And I know that I'm just building upon, like, and I think, like, it especially in this industry, a lot of what we do is online in the sex work industry. And so it's a little bit hard to have a perception of myself, because it does oftentimes feel like we're just tweeting into the void or posting into the void or whatever else. And so now that I am more into the community, like, and I'm learning to receive it. I'm learning to sit with it. But at first, especially, it was such a shock to me when I would be at events and people were excited to see me. Like, oh my God, Temptress Mango, like, you're my Twitter crush. I love your content. And I'm like, you talking about me? Like, that was, and now it's like, now I understand, I have a better understanding of or how people perceive me in this industry. And while I feel like, oh yeah, I'm not like, you know, making 6 figures, or I haven't had this specific experience yet that most people would, I discredit the wins. Like at the time of this recording, I'm 3 years in, and I have yet to have an in-person session that is paid. I have lots of experience because I've gone to different parties, like I've worked with other creators and things like that, so I know what I'm doing, but I haven't had an in-person session. And for a while that really made me feel like, and even saying this on camera, I'm like, what? But for a while that made me feel a little bit less than. Like, what do you mean? You're a dominatrix and you're not getting paid to have sessions? But I was talking to Naked Trumpeter, and they were like, people paid you for customs, right? I was like, yeah. They're like, okay, you had a paid session. I was talking to somebody else, and they were like, oh, you know, like, what's the scene down in the DMV? And I was like, honestly, I haven't had a session yet. And they're like, okay, so you do more online work. And I'm like, yeah, like, I've had online sessions, I've had experience in persons, and I'll actually be breaking my in-person session cherry this week. I'm having a double dom session with Mistress Bad Bitch, so I'm excited to talk about that in Chicago. Really excited. But yeah, for a long time that was an insecurity for me, because again, equating that success of like, you know, what, I have a website, I have experience, like I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm talking about. And so for me, that was a sense of external validation that I needed to feel more sure of myself. And honestly, it's like it's not like I haven't had the opportunity to have an in-person session, which this actually kind of flows perfectly into the next point where I'll wrap it up, because this is definitely going to be a 2-hour episode. But a big reason why I have not had an in-person session was, one, the main reason is because I have a screening process, and I'm very particular about my safety, because sex work is work, and sex workers are not protected. And so I have to put systems in place to protect myself. So when a person wants a session with me, you need to submit an ID so that I can do a background check, so that I can make sure that you're safe. Right? I'm not just going to meet with any person because they're offering me money. And so sex work is definitely not something that I suggest people go into. Like, there's a potential. It's not quick money. It's not easy money. There's a potential to make buku money. But when you're coming, and I'm very grateful that when I started this, I wasn't in a position to have to do this as a mode of survival. Now it is survival for me. It is my survival method. But when I first started this, I had like a full quote unquote part-time, a quote unquote full part-time job, which is, I left that job because I was like, y'all not paying me enough. I'm doing too much work. I can't keep living my life like this. But that wasn't like, this wasn't my main source of income. So I had that cushion of like, I really could explore and dabble and just see what the fuck I'm even interested in, or what this might turn into. Versus some people, like there's a lot of people who they need this to get their bills done, to feed themselves, to feed their kids potentially. Like, so it's very easy to get caught up by the promise of money, and people lure on others like that. So I'm very like, I have a strict, and I've learned that there are certain ways that I could ease up on my strictness, right? Of like, because there was like one instance, there's a website called Tris. I think I've talked about it. Fucking hate that website. But anyway, when I first had it, I had my number. It was a Google number on Tris where people could like text me. And so, but it said on the thing, like, text or email, do not call me. But motherfuckers was calling me. But anyway, so like people on Tris would like reach out, and I'd be like, okay, well, go fill out this booking form. And then, you know, and I had Marley, shout out Marley, she was like, girl, sometimes somebody who is sending like the same questions that you're asking in this booking form, you could ask in a text. And it's just like, sometimes you do have to be, I'm getting all these crazy messages. Sometimes it doesn't have to be this strict regimen, or there's ways that you could pivot, right? So the point is like, at the end of the day, I'm not meeting with nobody who hasn't tributed and who hasn't sent their ID so that I can perform a background check for my safety. Because we see people getting caught up on the news and, you know, whatever else. So I'm not going to jail because I'm trying to make some money. And while I'm not doing any sexual acts, like, it's still, who they gonna believe? Especially as a black woman. So yes, I have to protect myself in that instance. And so unless somebody fills out my booking form correctly, then no. Or if you don't do the steps that I tell you, then no, we're not having a session. And then I've had some people who are just like, oh, those rates are just too expensive. Okay, well, find somebody else to do it, because I gave you the price. And I just recently raised my prices, because I was doing $500 an hour, but now there's $700 an hour, right? So anyway, it's like, okay, well, if somebody doesn't want to, if you think that I'm too expensive, then find somebody else who's in your price range. Because at the end of the day, domination is a luxury. It's not your basic average Joe is not outside looking for a dominatrix because they can't afford it, or they might not even know what that is, right? So if you want to experience, because there's so much money. I had to pay to take classes to learn. I paid to go to different events so that I could have in-person experience. I have to pay for gear and things of that nature. So it's like, I am investing in myself. So yes, my prices are high because I have to keep this shit running. I have to keep learning. I have to keep experiencing things. So yes, motherfucking pay me. The hell. And actually, a lot can get done in an hour. But anyway, so sex work. So I had kind of mentioned in the last episode, I was talking about like sex work laws and age verification laws. I forget exactly what I had called it, but it was more so about age verification laws and how I was grateful that I didn't end up going to North Carolina because they had passed the different age verification laws, and these are all based off of SESTA and FOSTA, which were they were passed initially in 2018 under the Trump administration. And SESTA is the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act, and FOSTA is Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. And I'll tag the article below of where I got this information from. But so these all stem back to SESTA and FOSTA, and different states. There's 20 different states. There's 20 different states in the U.S. that are affected by these age verification laws that are attacking. Oh my God, y'all, the sun is bright today because I took screenshots. I want to make sure I'm saying the right stuff. Let me see. I have all these fucking, I can't see shit. But my sunglasses help? Not really. Okay, so different key states are Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Virginia. So the age verification laws, the idea is that they're trying to stop sex trafficking, online sex trafficking. They're trying to protect minors from things, and it's like, it's actually doing the opposite, and it's making it so much difficult, right? So it's like the idea is that it was put here to protect, but it's actually increased a lot of the problems. Even the U.S. Department of Justice testified that SESTA makes it more difficult to investigate and prosecute, because there's also this loose perception and opinion of like what is sex work, what is deemed appropriate or not. But in terms of, this is the problem, human trafficking is not the same as consensual adult sex work. As two consenting adults, we are consenting to create this content, to perform this, to engage in this interaction. We have had these conversations. We put the things in place to do this. As a consumer of like, because I know Virginia and other places, like you can't even go on Pornhub anymore. Like you need a VPN to be able to go on certain sites. And I think, yes, some sites, it's like, okay, they have no form of age verification. You can just type in the website and then you just click a button saying like, yeah, I'm 18, and then you watch shit for free. Versus other sites where you actually have to make an account to be able to see certain things, right? So I think even that in itself is a difference between, you know, trying this claim that you're trying to protect minors. But what I was saying was, yeah, so when you have this censorship and you have these bans, you're actually making it easier for the people who are engaging in the trafficking to hide. Because it's like on certain sites, like the other day, is in financial domination, there's this one thing that there's this like one game that people will play is like snap and send. So every time I snap my fingers, that's another send, that's another tribute. So I did make a series of videos called Snap and Send, and I'm not going to go on a huge rant, because again, I've been talking for almost 2 hours and I do have to edit this. But I'm not as active on mini vids as I once was, and I had a video, the first Snap and Send sold on there. I tried to upload the video, the second one, and it told me that snap is a banned word. I know that like mesmerize has been banned, hypnosis has been banned, minivids doesn't even let you upload wrestling clips anymore. A lot of places don't like the whole shit scat, like feces and things like that. What's another word that is like banned but it really doesn't make sense? Like it really requires us to like use different language to be able to post the same shit. Like it's nothing crazy about the content in my case, in other creators' cases. But why I bring that up is because like, well, you know, if you're looking for somebody that is doing something outrageous or egregious, now that we have all these online things, because what SESTA and FOSTA also do is it makes the online providers, the platforms, and the sex work, the social media platforms, they're forced to censor us so that they won't be held liable. So that means that they have to ban us from using certain words. Like a perfect example right now with loyal fans, there's like, you know, age play is a thing for some people. And of course, it's like age, I don't kink shame. I do have a slight interest in age play, but again, that goes to having conversations as consenting adults about what do you want to engage in this? Why do you want to engage in this? What do you get out of it? Because there's different forms of like, oh, well, maybe you're a person who wants to engage with somebody who's younger than you. Okay, what lines do that cross? But where I see it more in my realm of the world is like people just wanting to like go back into their inner child, or wanting to be a little, and like, oh, I want to finger paint, and I want to sit in a high chair and eat my Cheerios, or things like that, or just this kind of like, I want to regress and like forget about the world, right? So it looks very different as maybe a 45-year-old man asking me to be his mommy in a scene versus like a 45-year-old man going after a younger girl, or a older woman going after a younger boy. Completely different, right? Or wanting to see the young girl content, like you want to see people pretend to be a high schooler and things like that. So I do think that there's a line that's being crossed there, and I will say I support it, right? But anyway, back to what I was initially starting, like loyal fans right now, they're like going and they're censoring content. I had a video where literally the video it's a close-up of my lips of me whistling, and in the description I had said something about like, this isn't playroom whistling or something. They edited that, they took out playroom and replaced it with rhyme. And then it was like, I saw something the other day where this girl, she had like it was a video where she was like talking about her tits, but she had pigtails in her hair, and she did tag pigtails. So they censored her content and was like, oh, the pigtails can be suggestive of being younger. So it's like shit like that, right? And so it's it's harming us because you're not actually you're targeting the people that are consensually engaging in this work versus the people that are not doing it. And so it makes it like when you have these online platforms shadow banning us and deleting content and doing all this other stuff, like it then makes us, you know, online. I have a screening process. I have a system to enable my safety, to ensure my safety, to heighten my safety. But then when you do all this censoring, then I can't do that. So then we're forced to go either, you know, pimps and other people taking advantage of us. We're forced to go back out on the street and try to do things in person, and like we might get harassed by law enforcement, or we might run into clientele. Like we can't screen them as well, and our safety is just more at risk. So even when you ban this stuff, it doesn't end the demand. People still want it. There's still a market for it. So that just means that the people who are engaging in those harmful acts are then going to be more creative about how they're getting their stuff out there. And then, yeah, it was like that like I said, the U.S. Department of Justice even testified that like this is not working. This is doing way worse than it was intended. I know, like I mentioned, how North Carolina, it was like you can't have collaborations with other people. Alabama, I know some sites were like, we don't even want to deal with Alabama no more. But now I think it's like Alabama content creators, they have to get I think they have to get their work, like their paperwork, notarized. I have to go pay a notary to verify this content release form. Now you have like, what about the people that are doing this as like a side job or want to maintain their anonymity? Now you throw that out the window. So yeah, it's just it's a lot to consider, and I kind of hate to leave off on that note, but like I said, I did leave and it was just kind of like a brief synopsis of that article, but I did leave the link in the description. Go check out this article, very informative. Yeah, and this also just affects, like, going back to the point that I kind of made earlier of like, there's also this loose perception and opinion of what is deemed appropriate, because we see a lot too. White creators can get away with a lot more than black creators. I think I've talked about, there was one time I posted a poll video, and it was like a silhouette video. I was in my room, the lights were off, but it was like the LED lights, and I was already dressed in black, so you really couldn't see me. And I did have on this fishnet outfit. You saw the outline of my nipple. It's dark, so it's not a nipple, but you see the outline of my nipple. They banned it for nude content. But literally a couple days later, I saw a white woman like in the camera in the same outfit I had on, and you saw her nipples, and nothing happened. I mean, she has so many views, and I was just like, what? So there's also that disproportionate of like who's being censored: black creators versus white creators or other creators. And then the opinion, like the article mentions how this guy who he was on Craigslist, and he was a massage therapist, and that got shut down. So now his livelihood is at risk. So in some cases, like, some people consider massages as sex work. And it's really interesting too to see. Oops, let me put that down. I'm playing with the other mic, and that, anyway. Even I've talked about this in an episode before. I think it was Standing on Business. But anyway, that idea of this debate of like, what is safe work? What is sex work? When I was still in school for art therapy, I did this this project, and I'll see. I don't know if I have a picture of it. I have to look and see if I have a picture of it. If I do, I'll put it here. But I remember it saying like, "Welcome to the hierarchy," And like the project was, we had to come up with a mock group and like how we would treat them, and with art therapy and everything else. So I had came up, because y'all know my whole focus while I was actively in school was trying to connect what I was learning to sex work, and I'm always going to try to connect what I'm learning to HIV too. So the mock group I came up with was sex workers that have like HIV and other STDs, but like mostly HIV, and like what would I do there, and part of what I was talking about is like, you know, even as a pro dom, there's this sense of like I might be better than someone who's in the strip club versus someone who's on the street actually like selling sex, right? And it's like, at the end of the day, I'm not better than anybody. Where I'm supporting everybody's decisions, I just want to make sure that people have the resources that they need in order to be safe. But there's this idea, and it's like some people, it's like the rise of the TikTok doms and whatever else, like people really be thinking like this is not sex work, babe, it is. Like, and so people will say like, oh, how to find a rich man on the internet and blah blah blah. And just because you're not, because I'm not having sex with anybody, but I'm still a sex worker. Like, so it's this idea of like, just people think that, oh, if you are having sex or if you're not having sex, that depends on like how successful you are or whatever your worth, and it's so much. But anyway, with all that being said, so what can you do about it? There is a link within the link of like ways you can take action. Definitely looking at like your local laws, and if you are a person who votes because that's a whole debate in and of itself, making sure that you are voting, and you're not only just voting, but you're doing the research to see like what policies are actually in support of the things that you want to see for the better of all people. What can I leave y'all with? Because I talked about a lot. Oh, there was one story. Okay, so I'll leave y'all with this. I was going on my little walk the other day, and I was present with myself, and I felt, and I kind of talked about this, I felt a lot of like chest, heart space tightness and throat tightness. And as I'm walking and I'm practicing my gratitude, it was like, because normally Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I'll start my day with like tea and just kind of like settling into like, I'm awake, what am I going to do today? And then I'll do my work, and then I'll go on a walk. So this one of those days, I was like, no, I think it was the full moon on April 1st, actually. I was like, no, I feel like I need to go on my walk first, right? And so again, just being grateful that I have built a system that I can rearrange my day in that moment of like, okay, I still said I was going to take a walk today, but like I can take a walk at 9 o'clock in the morning and, you know, take my little hour walk and then go into work and do what I need to do, and it not be the end of the world, right? Versus like if I was doing whatever else, like, no, I have to be to work, I have to clock in at 8 o'clock in the morning and be there, God forbid I go to the bathroom too long, you know, things like that. So I'm grateful that I've done that. But anyway, so going on my walk and just appreciating and, you know, being inspired. I think I saw like a worm on the ground, and I was thinking about like, oh, a little shriveled up dick. And so I made like a voice recording audio. So I'm still working as I'm doing that walk. But seeing the bees and how they were just like, I got the chance to sit and watch the bees and how they were just pollinating and like jumping from flowers to flowers. And how their little, like, everything is just like a system. Things are in place. Like, you do one thing for something else to carry the weight and do it. And it's like, it really is like a symbiotic relationship, and how the things we don't see, like flowers bloom because of the work of the bees. The bees are what help pollinate. But it was this woman and her partner, and I'm assuming maybe their child, and the child had an acorn, and he was like, oh, look at the acorn, and she was like, wow, you have an acorn? That's kind of cool. And she was genuinely excited about him being excited about the acorn. And I thought that was so beautiful, because that really is, when you think about the acorn, it is this tiny, smooth little nut. And it grows into such a big, beautiful tree. And again, going back to planting seeds. If you looked at an acorn and you didn't know what an acorn tree was, you would be so flabbergasted at the fact that this little thing turned into something so big and rooted. And really thinking of ourselves as trees. And like, you know, even from the little kid, like, even if you think of like your inner child, and it's like, what do you mean we have a license and we can drive now? What? You have a job? People pay you to do something? Even if you hate your job, right? Even if you hate your job, if you look at your younger self, it's like, we have a job, we get our own money, we can pay for things. What? You live on your own? You can buy your own food and you can buy whatever you want to eat? Like, that is mind-blowing. So I just want to leave you with that. Just think about the seeds that you are planting, have planted, you want to plant, and knowing that it's going to take time, and finding joy in the revealing of that. And that's what I will leave y'all with. So y'all, be safe, make good choices.